Hi everyone, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Leïla. On this channel, I talk about personal development and my life in Seoul, South Korea. In today's video, I would like to review the Sogang KLEC program from level 2 to level 6. I hope that my personal experience will help you on your own journey should you choose to come to Korea to study Korean. I will not be going into details on like how to apply, how much it costs, what are the requirements, etc. This is purely about the learning experience. So let's get started. 한국에 오기 전에 버스턴에서 살고 있었어요. 그때는 한국 친구들이 없어서 한국말 배우기가 아주 어려웠어요. 한국에 대해 관심이 있는 사람의 대부분처럼 한국 드라마를 보면서 또 한국 노래를 부르면서 한국어를 혼자서 공부하게 됐어요. 수업을 듣지 않았는데도 레벨 테스트를 보고 소강 2급부터 들을 수 있었고요. 이런 거 어떻게 할 수 있었는지 알려줄게요. 소강 덕분에 물론 제 실력이 늘긴 했는데 자신감이 조금 부족했거든요. 시간이 갈수록 연습할수록 더 잘하게 될 거라고 생각해요. 어쩔 수 없죠. 힘내라, 레이라. Alright, so before we get started, I would like to let you all know that if you wish to move to Korea, study the language, and find a way to stay long term, I do have a program for you. For 3 weeks, you and I will get you ready for your big move. I know what it's like to search the internet, watch countless videos, trying to find pieces here and there to complete a quite confusing puzzle. We will talk about your why, your mindset and goals, your finances, and how to better prepare yourself before and after you move to Korea. We will discuss the whole Sogang experience, the living in Korea experience, and opportunities you should be aware of if you decide to stay in the country long term. So the link is in my bio, or you can visit roadmaptokorea.com for more information. This portion of the video is specifically for those of you who have no real experience learning Korean, if you have studied on your own using books here and there, if you have never taken a Korean class or have DIY your entire learning experience, if you have used Korean dramas and music as a way to practice and improve your skill, I would encourage you to take the placement test anyway. You have nothing to lose, okay? If anything, you will save money. So let's start there. Do not let fear convince you to settle for level 1. Now, if this ugly fear rears its head, here are the tips I have used in order to be placed at level 2. But first, let's do a quick breakdown of the placement test. From what I remember, and keep in mind, I took my test back in August 2020. The placement test consisted of a writing test, a small essay, and an interview with a teacher. The interview was a conversation that lasted between 10 to 15 minutes. Tip number 1, look up Sogang Level 1 and 2 books online. I'm referring to the small vocabulary and grammar booklet. It lists all the things you will learn in that level. Prior to coming to Korea, make sure to master this grammar. By doing so, you will be able to use it in your writing and during your interview. Also, when you get to level 2, things will be easier for you. Why? Because you would already know what to expect. It will make your experience even more enjoyable. Starting fresh in a country is already, stressing enough, so this would guarantee that you would actually have some peace of mind at the very beginning of your experience. Tip number 2, for the writing test, you would have 3 options, 3 different subjects, and 3 different levels: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. I choose not to pick the beginner option, although I was a beginner at the time. I picked the intermediate option, and here is my reasoning. In tests where teachers are trying to assess your level, it is best to be average at a higher level than great at a basic level. And my bet paid off. So you might want to give this a try. Now, of course, this would only work if you have mastered part 1, okay? Tip number 3, the interview. That was actually the most stressing part for me. Speaking in front of a teacher, having someone judge my Korean was nerve-wracking. I went through different phases. At one point, I was really prepared. I prepared the whole thing by anticipating questions that they would ask. Then at some point, I was like, the hell with this, whatever happens, happens. The teacher at the end of the day doesn't really know your level, so the conversation would start very basic. Then based on your answers, she or he will determine if the conversation needs to remain basic or go a step further. At this point, since you are a beginner, just focus on making basic sentences with proper grammar. Don't try to memorize anything fancy, remain basic, remain grammatically correct, and you will be fine. Honestly, throughout my Sogang experience, the interview process, which happens twice per trimester, was the most stressing thing. So I will not sit here, try to give you advice and front. That thing is stressful. You just have to find a way to go through with it. They will ask you, basic questions such as, where are you from? How did you get interested in Korea? Why did you come to Korea? Where do you stay? Etc. So as long as you practice those basic stuff, you should be fine. These levels are structured the same way. You have a book, a workbook, a grammar vocabulary booklet, and a writing book. Sogang books are designed in a way where you need a teacher to explain things to you. You cannot teach yourself Korean with these books. With 4 hours of classes per day, I would advise that you set another 4 hours of studies, and here is why. You will have homework and written assignments, so you need to keep up with those. There is a lot of vocabulary to assimilate, and memorization requires study time. You will need to review what was taught in class for better assimilation, and you are better off previewing what is to come the following day. The pace is pretty fast. It's 1 chapter every 2 days, okay? So if you get behind, for example, it becomes easy to fall off track. When the midterm comes, you will find yourself scrambling to get your ish together, and that is not fun. Keys to success at level 2 and 3 is being diligent with your grammar and establishing a great foundation, putting in the hours of studying, and reap the benefits later. Think of yourself as like back in college, if like me, you graduated a long time ago. Level 2 and 3 will feel very exciting, especially if you're genuinely in love with Korean. There is virtually no learning curve. You will start to see results right away, and that will get you even more excited to learn. Your progress will be visible, and you would start picking up on things being said around you. I mean, if you don't enjoy the experience in level 2 and 3, goodness gracious, you will be miserable moving forward. Korean, just like any languages, gets harder as you progress. Let me repeat that. It gets harder, not easier. So if you don't have a solid foundation to begin with, things can crumble. Or, and that is what happened to me, if you are too perfectionist, obsessed with grammar, study time, and does not give yourself grace, you will crumble as well. So mid-level 4, I felt myself on the verge of a burnout. So keep in mind, I started at level 2, right? So I was going on my 3rd trimester back to back. I made a video on this, so if you're interested in knowing more, feel free to go watch it. So level 4 is a level I repeated on purpose. I could have powered through the whole thing, but I knew I needed a big change, and that change was simple. I needed a freaking life. The progress at this point is not so visible anymore. Heck, you might feel like you are not progressing at all. Things start to get frustrating too. So just know that this is a normal feeling. It is not a sign saying that you suck, well, unless you're not putting in the work, and that's a direct reflection of your carelessness, but you are going through the learning curve. Think of a car, right? When it first gets on the highway, it accelerates. You feel like you're going fast. But after a while, the car maintains a certain speed. You are no longer accelerating, you are cruising. But aren't you moving fast still? Of course you are, but you can't really feel it because there's no acceleration process going on. Anyway, I hope you get my example here. Personally, that's how level 4 felt for me. What made me successful at level 2 and 3 hindered my progress at level 4. Level 2, 3, and 4 are actually very much the same structurally. It's just that the content is different. At level 4, things are obviously harder. If, like me, you're coming out of like 6 months of intense learning, there could come a time where you need to take a breather. So here are my keys to success at level 4. Go out more, enjoy life, and put yourself in situations where you can actually practice your Korean. At level 2 and 3, I was good on paper, but my speaking was trash. If you're at level 4, chances are you have what it takes to conduct basic conversation. So go out and experiment. By going out and meeting new people, it forced me to have conversations longer than the usual pleasantries, and I saw some improvement. Not to say that grammar at level 4 is not important, it is important. However, it's the kind of grammar that is complementary to what you have already learned. Level 4 is teaching you an alternative way of saying things. It also teaches you to be more precise with your statement. So basically, a lot of the grammar at level 4 is that kind of grammar where you build off of what you've already learned, and you get to do fancier sentences. So of course, you will still need study time, but focus on enjoying a full social life, because interacting with the outside world is how you would see progress. Here you get introduced to video classes. I like the concept. You watch a clip, usually a Korean drama excerpt, and discuss it in class, but the vocabulary and expressions you learn in a video class has nothing to do with the vocabulary in the book. So that means more stuff for you to memorize, and I found that experience to be quite challenging. Level 5 is less about grammar, more about Korean culture. We discuss famous people, places, society, history, habits, etc. The emphasis here is on class discussion, and we had a lot of it, albeit short ones. Like I mentioned, there is barely any focus on grammar. At this point, you should already know most grammar concepts, so what's being taught are just cherry on top. You can't escape the vocabulary part, never-ending memorization of words and expressions. However, the class format was more relaxed and no real homework besides, the teacher telling you to prepare your thoughts and answers on next class topic discussions, for example. At this point, for me at least, Sogang was no longer working. I knew the, grammar-wise I was good, I knew that, but my speaking ability was still a struggle. What I needed at this point was getting myself a Korean tutor or like a conversation partner. Although we speak in class, way more than in previous level, it still wasn't enough for me. And that is not Sogang's fault. I mean, when you are in a classroom with like 12 other students, you cannot get the teacher to yourself, right? So your classmates actually become your partners. If I could, spend those 4 hours with one teacher and have all those conversations with this one teacher, my level would have improved tenfold. But because I had to maintain my D4 visa status, I signed up for level 5 and then level 6, even though I knew deep down that my needs were going to be, completely different. So if I had the opportunity and the freedom after level 4, I would have used my money to get myself a private teacher, conversation partner. I would, it would have been way more efficient than, but I completed level 5 and I moved on to level 6, so there's that. I like to joke and say I don't know how I got to level 6. I felt so out of place. My vocabulary and expressions were still level 3 and 4, and some teachers used to remind us that at this point we should be able to express our thoughts in a more polished manner. And they were right, except that I personally felt I wasn't a level 6 student. In level 6, there is a speaking class, reading class, writing class, and video class. Things are high level. Okay, we discussed the law, the environment, society, like some, pretty serious stuff. The readings are high level too. I used my dictionary so damn much. There were instances where I will literally, read something and not comprehend the article I was reading because most of the words were so unfamiliar to me. In retrospect, it is hilarious, but in the midst of it, it was a very frustrating experience. For personal reasons, I wasn't really into the learning experience anymore. I had checked out, I'm not gonna lie. I had so much going on in my life, and don't worry, there were like all great things happening, but I needed to sacrifice something, and I decided to sacrifice my study time. So it was hard for me to keep up with what was going on. I showed up to class, I enjoyed the class discussion, but that was it, right? And the classes for the first time were held in person at school, and I loved the experience. Oh my God, it was so nice being able to communicate with everyone during class. I wish, that would have been my entire experience, but oh well. But that part at level 6 was very much enjoyable, except that I hated waking up very early in the morning, but that's another story. Let's move on to some fun facts. Sogang's teachers are amazing. Okay, amazing. There wasn't one I had that gave me the impression that they did not care about their job or the students. If you're worried about the quality of the teachers, fear not, they are amazing and caring. The best students in my class were almost always Japanese, and I've heard of similarities between the languages which could make their learning process easier, and I can totally see how great of an advantage that can be. I mean, as a native French speaker, for example, learning Spanish was easier for me because of that. But yeah, I kind of found that funny. Most of them, I would say, were Japanese. Very impressive. All right, don't compare yourself with students. in your class. The truth is, we may all have, we may all be in the same class, but the level within the class varies, believe it or not. Some students will stand out more while others will look like they struggle. You are not in the person's shoes, so you have no idea what their background is. The person who makes it look effortless has maybe studied Korean in the classroom before. The person might have repeated that same level, you don't know. The person might have friends or boyfriend to practice with, etc. All I'm trying to say is that our backgrounds and our situations are vastly different. So instead of feeling intimidated or envious or whatever, focus on yourself and your progress. Compare, yourself with who you were the level prior to the one you are currently taking. That's how you can measure real progress. Also, don't use people personal advantages to justify why you aren't at their level. Oh, but so-and-so this, so-and-so that. That's why it's easier for them. Get a grip, okay? No excuses or victimhood mentality here. We are all dealt different cards, so just focus on yours. In-person class is better than online class, hands down. Duh, right? I originally felt like I was robbed of the real experience, but I'm the one who chose to move to Korea during a pandemic, so I only have myself to blame, right? But Sogang did a very good job making the experience worth it in the end. Studying at Sogang will not prepare you for the topic. The topic exam requires a very specific training. Sogang does offer topic preparation class. I think it starts at level 4. You can sign up and pay like extra fee. You can take those classes or you can study on your own using topic books. I have not taken the test, so I can't really speak on that. Last but not least, will you be fluent after completing the program? The answer is very simple but also complicated. It will depend on 3 things. Number 1, your ability to retain vocabulary, grammar, expressions, etc. Number 2, your fearlessness and willingness to speak Korean whenever you get the opportunity. And number 3, it'll depend on whether or not you desire to live in Korea long term. Alright, lovely people, that is all for now. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that was very helpful. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to share them and I will see if I can find the proper answer or the proper guidance to provide. Until then, take good care of yourselves and you would see me in the next video. Bye.